Now I have audio. 1 minute. And talk to me.
Hello,
Yes,
everybody.
we all have audio. Okay. So let's start this again. Shall we?
Surely.
Surely. Okay.
No, wait a minute. Let's count down now. We're going to start the tape at
Ju-
five,
Wait,
four,
wait, wait, wait. I got to get myself in the corner. Go ahead. 3.
2, 1. You're on the air.
We're here on a Friday night, a very special Friday night for the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Winter Weather Advisories up for parts of the Northeast for the big duh. And we have blizzard warnings in the northern plains with lots of winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories as well. A major storm with heavy snow, flooding rains, and who knows, maybe the kitchen sink is on the way. All that and more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show, which of course is brought to you by
Omni True Value Hardware in West Babylon, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in the southwestern part of beautiful downtown Suffolk County.
Yes, and they are preparing for the transition to spring, so they've got mulch, sand, topsoil, and they still have some winter weather products just in case we get a surprise. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. Nowhere can you find better prices. The website is
Of course, OmniTrueValue.com. Good Friday evening, Joe.
and a good evening to you too, Mr. Rayo. Uh, I forgot that I just before the show I had to do a Windows update, and guess what it did? It turned off got rid of all my passwords, turned off all my speakers. So anyway, we got that settled and it's fixed. Okay. Welcome to everybody on the chat board. Welcome to everyone watching in the background here tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. If you like the show, hit the like button. The faster we get to 100 likes, the better. And we're on usually Monday through Thursday at 7:35, Sundays at 11 a.m. Fridays and Saturdays we're off, but given that we've got this minor event going on here in our area in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, we figured we'd do a Friday night show. So subscribe if you like the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and this way you will never miss it because you'll get notifications and you'll have your notifications turned on. So I will immediately go to my snow forecast map, which I did on Wednesday.
And if you want to give me sharing capabilities after that, we will show the updated. Yes, Joe Rayo actually updated his snow map from last night.
Well, I didn't upchange a thing. Okay.
Okay.
And
all right.
If you remember last night, our eyebrows were raised, 4 of them. Okay, my 2 and your 2. That the numbers that the Weather Service had seemed just a smidge too high. Certainly on my part, I thought it was more than just a smidge, but I said no, going to stay the same. And today's numbers that they did, which I'll show you in a moment, they have pretty much come into line, sort of to what I have, which is, and again, this is to emphasize elevated areas especially. 2 to 3 is what I went for the inland areas, and I've got that. What is that? The hex is
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
The 4 sides over there that I did with the 3 to 6 inches. What shape is that?
Oh, the quadrilateral.
It's a quadrilateral. Thank you.
Yes.
I kept my mind was going to hexagon, but I need one more for a hex.
Yeah.
3 to 6, and of course the higher numbers in elevated areas. You know, Joe, this is so underwhelming. This was all the numbers, all the higher numbers are based on this Norland trough that is going to try to swing around tomorrow morning. And that is such a dicey proposition, even under ideal circumstances, which is what we don't have. So I figured between that and the fact that the temperatures, I mean, it's raining pretty much everywhere, where temperatures are in the upper 30s and lower 40s. So I just I figured just roll with what I got since I was already at the bottom of the on the bottom side anyway. So that is that, and we'll see how it turns out in the morning. And of course, as you said, you have your numbers, so I'm gonna let's look at those. If shall we?
Surely. Just give me a chance to put something up at the moment. Oh, there we are.
Okay.
No, okay.
And I
So
gotta
boom.
hold on. I gotta switch here. There you go.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's Mr. Rayo's numbers.
Now, I live right on the line here between my category of slushy coating to 1 inch to 1 to 2 inches. I live right over there. And I will tell you, Joe, that I looked at not one, not two, but I actually looked at 5 different forecasts on 5 different television stations this evening, just out of curiosity. And in fact, one of the 5 was an old friend of ours from our days at FiOS One, Mr. Green, Addison Green, doing the evening forecasting for News 12 Westchester, my old stomping grounds. And if you follow 4 out of those 5 different forecasts for my area where I live in Putnam County, they all went for 3 to 5 or even 3 to 6 inches.
Good luck.
And my eyes rolled round like, well, they rolled anyway. So yeah, good luck. I figured, Joe, that the first half of tonight we're going to see rain and temperatures will be above freezing, and even after midnight, when the column begins to cool and things start to change from north to south, from rain to wet snow, I think basically it's going to be tough to put down very much in the way of an accumulation. Only on the colder surfaces. I have that little notation here in the upper left corner, primarily on colder, non-paved surfaces. So if you live where I do, up in Putnam County or adjacent Orange, or even up into Dutchess County, I think the most you're going to see is a couple of inches, and it's all going to be driven. And I think you just mentioned this a few moments ago, Joe. I think by elevation. And here in this part of the map for Sullivan and a good part of Ulster County, where there are mountains above 1,000 feet, that's where I think you'll see the possibility of seeing 4 to 6 or maybe even a bit more than 6 inches in the very highest terrain areas. But that's where you're going to get the big snows from this particular system, I think. And as you go south and east, it drops off quickly. And across Long Island, New York City, and a good part of the 5 boroughs, save for maybe a little part of northern Bronx. Chiefly, it's going to be a rain event, maybe some wet flakes mixing in, no significant accumulations down in this region here. And I was shocked because I saw some forecasts that actually had for parts of Long Island and also for portions of New York City, 1 to 3 inches. And I said, well, good luck. I honestly believe that we're not going to see very much of anything down there. And after looking at everything, I said, well, I think I ought to lower my accumulation estimates. And so there you go.
This is definitely not the winter to go higher. It just isn't.
Right.
If it's going to surprise, it's going to surprise in the other direction.
And in fact, one of the forecasters last night, name will not be mentioned, but on the 11 o'clock newscast last night, one forecaster who I think was beginning to have the same ideas that I was having last night was showing, like, for example, for where I live, it was 2 to 4 inches. And I went 2 to 4 inches for Putnam Valley last night. But he looked straight into the camera and said, based upon what I'm beginning to see, and I guess he was looking at the new NAM and the very beginning of the GFS, which, by the way, will not be available to him or anybody for an 11 o'clock newscast beginning Sunday as we go back in this atrocious daylight saving time deal. But last night, this particular forecaster said, we're going 2 to 4. I put more of an emphasis on the 2 as opposed to the 4. And I began to shake my head. And I said, yeah, exactly. And if you look at the thermodynamics on the GFS, Joe, that 32-degree line On none of the models, the Canadian, the GFS, the NAM, the HRRR, the 32-degree line barely penetrates down into the lower Hudson Valley. So how possibly, if you follow that, how possibly could you expect anything significant in terms of accumulating snow? So based upon all of this, I said, it's time for me to lower these accumulations, and that's why I did what I did.
It's not happening. I mean, I just don't see. I would be shocked if all of a sudden tomorrow morning, because Norland troughs are notorious sometimes for pulling off surprises, but
Right.
I really, really would be utterly shocked if this is going to be one of those times. Because, as I said, we haven't had. I mean, we haven't really had a remote chance to do it all winter. We're going to suddenly do it now, and I just don't. If we were sitting half a dozen degrees colder right now, we would probably be having a totally different conversation. But we're not, so we're not going to have a totally different conversation. And as far as the Weather Service goes, I got their numbers here because they had a lot of sixes in there yesterday. So I'll put that up on the screen.
Yes.
And here we go. So there you have it. This is the Weather Service digital forecast with all the evening updates. And you'll notice that they've definitely brought those numbers down significantly. Just ones and twos, where yesterday they had fours and fives,
Right.
and where they had sixes, now they've got fours. Northwest New Jersey, Orange County, north and west up into Sullivan County. Yeah, I get that. Northeastern Pennsylvania. Yeah, but look at Scranton. Only a 1 at Scranton. Again, the 1 at Scranton and the 7 that's in between Scranton and Allentown, that tells you that elevation is the reason why you suddenly jump from 1 to 7 and then back down to 3 and then back down to 1 as you get close to Allentown, or maybe even just a coating there. And in that lightest blue, by the way, that's a coating at most an inch. So there's not a whole lot more we can really say about this. If we go a little further up into upstate New York, across south of I-90 is probably I-90 looks like the border of where there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 inches. They got a 7 print for Rochester, 6 for Buffalo, 4 for Syracuse, 3 for Utica, 2 for Albany, but there's some 6s and 7s down here in southwestern New York, some 2s and 3s across northern Pennsylvania. If we want to take a look at some of the hazards that are up, for one thing, they actually took down a few of the winter weather advisories that were up in more into central and starting to nudge into eastern Connecticut. So basically, the advisories that are up for places like New Haven, I would say pretty much east of I-91, those are done. They canceled those. They also canceled. They had them up for parts of Essex County and a couple of the counties surrounding the ones to the northwest. So those were canceled as well, but we still have them up for the northwestern New Jersey counties. And there's winter storm warnings up for Monroe, Pike, and Wayne counties in northeastern Pennsylvania. And also you got a couple of winter storm warnings there in southwest New York. I'm thinking Jamestown might be, and even West Jamestown might be in the winter storm warning area there, and also up in northwest PA, up around Erie, Pennsylvania. So, but this is going to play out, and it's going to be done.
And the other thing that's concerning, at least to me, is the NAM has been particularly unsettled, so to speak. Today's 12Z run on the Foose gave between 7 o'clock and 1 a.m. tonight something like just over a half an inch of liquid precipitation. And then after 1 a.m., it kind of petered things out, maybe about a tenth of an inch between 1 and 7, and then another tenth between 7 a.m. tomorrow morning and 1 p.m., and then it's over with. Now, the 18Z Foose is coming in with big numbers again, almost a half an inch by 12 hours or by 1 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then another 0.4 of an inch between 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then another 1/4 of an inch between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. So the amount of liquid precipitation has been varying or vacillating quite a bit on the NAM run. But one thing that has not been changing has been the low levels of the atmosphere, the T1 boundary level temperature, which is the last 35 millibars down to the surface. In other words, the last 1,000 feet. At the T1, as of 1 o'clock in the morning at LaGuardia, is +4 Celsius. Friends, you cannot make snow when that bottom level of the atmosphere. I know
You
the
can
top
make
level.
you can make tea.
Yeah,
You
the
can make
top.
coffee, but you cannot make snow. No.
Well, the top, most of the atmosphere, I mean, going all the way up, is cold enough certainly for snow. But and in fact, there may be wet snowflakes falling from 1,000 feet. But as it goes down through that warmer layer of +4 Celsius, that wet snow is going to change over to rain. There may be a few wet flakes that make it down to the ground, but there ain't going to be any kind of an accumulation. And then it drops off. Now, I think the forecasters, those that look at this stuff, look at these numbers, they say, oh, wait a minute. The 18Z has come back around. It's dumping another half an inch after 1 o'clock in the morning. Whereas, as I just mentioned, it was considerably less on the 12Z, the primary run. And maybe they're looking at that and buying into it and saying, okay, finally it starts getting colder after midnight. There's another half inch to work with. There we go. That's we'll lower the accumulation by. No, it's not going to work that way. It's not going to work that way.
What is the point
tonight.
of bouncing around from run to run?
Right.
I mean, why?
If you look at it, if you do nowcasting, which is what you should be doing now, you'll notice that area of rain and the area of snow is still well to the north and west and is making very, very slow progress. And you just look at that and you say, all right, how much of that is still going to be around after midnight tonight if it finally or when it finally moves in to our local area? It's not going to be all that much. You can't get you certainly you're not going to squeeze out for where I live 5 or 6 inches of snow. Come on, use your head. Look at what's going on right now. It ain't happening. It's just not happening.
You know what is happening though?
A rant.
No. What's happening is Anthony Spiraccio hit Super Chat tonight. Thank you, Anthony. And also Trish Spiraccio hit Super Chat. Thank you, Trish. And finally, David Fuller, who's dreaming that maybe he'll get some snow in Monmouth County in New Jersey. Good evening, Joe. Hoping for a surprise snow. Hit Super Chat tonight. It's a dream for you, sir. Not happening unless you get a cheap thrill with 5 flakes out of it. I'm going to bring since it's had the hot hand, we might as well bring the HRRR up because I got the latest one here, and we could take a look at this. And yeah, here's this. It's like this comma, okay? And you've got rain. So this is at 10 p.m. All right. So at 10 p.m. it's supposed to be snowing in northwest New Jersey and northeast PA. And then as you get into the morning and that coastal low moves far, it's so far south, by the way. It's so, it's basically even with the border of Virginia and North Carolina going straight east. And you see that extension that goes northwest up into the Hudson Valley, into the Catskills. That's the Norland Trough. And this is at 4 a.m. where you see just a slightly darker shading of blue snow in the Hudson Valley that kind of bends around and drops southward by the time we get to 7 or 8 a.m. But it's all light stuff. And then, in fact, it goes back to rain as it goes further south. So, right. Look, if it was something where you had good vertical motions and where you'd see a blossoming area of that dark blue snow that shows up on these maps that indicates that it's going to be moderate to heavy, then you could overcome the daylight, but not with this. I mean, this is just not going to happen. You're going to see flakes fall, and they're going to basically, you can watch them pretty much melt on contact as they hit the ground, except for maybe some of the higher elevations. By the time, at least with what falls during tomorrow morning, and then it's done. The low is out there and it's gone.
You bring that a good point also. It's raining. It will continue to rain for the next 4, 5, 6 hours or whatever. And yeah, okay, let's just suppose midnight or 1 a.m. locally, right where I am, it changes over. Finally, it's changed over. It's snowing now, and it's coming down at a pretty good clip, but it's been raining. So maybe the snow will get a bit of a foothold on my wooden deck because it's a bit colder, or on some of the trees, or on the grass or whatever. But on my driveway, after several hours of rain, those wet flakes are going to come down, hit that wet driveway, and melt, and that's it. And so that's going to take away. So I have no intention tomorrow morning when I wake up of needing my snowblower, because it just is not going to be worth doing.
All right.
I do not believe, Norland Trough or no Norland Trough, I do not believe I'm going to have a Gomer pile tomorrow morning. Surprise, surprise, Sergeant Carter, you got 4 inches of snow. No, it ain't happening tomorrow morning. Sorry about that,
Well,
Sarge.
and I just brought up the 18Z NAM, which actually has a little patch of darker blue snow there, but same thing here. This is at 7 a.m. I mean, it's probably going to be still struggling, at least down near the coast. Yeah, that's you have a couple of hours where you might be able to put something down, and then it's gone. By the time we get to midday, this is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's all the precip's over with, and the low is down to a 980 as it moves southeast. I mean, for God's sakes, you can't even get a low to lift up northeastward and head up to the Gulf of Maine and Nova Scotia. It wants to go more toward Bermuda than anything else. And you also, by the way, you start to see by the time we get to Sunday afternoon and into Sunday evening, we've got snow in western PA spreading eastward and on the doorstep Monday morning. But here too, I mean, northwest New Jersey, even in the Hudson Valley, you got to go north of 84 to find any snow. So this is the initial shot. And of course, it only goes out to 1 a.m. on Tuesday, and you start to see that comma beginning to develop because the low is a 97, moving first out to the east before it turns north and northwest. And that's what we're going to be waiting for to see what happens with that. The NAM is right. It's probably snowing at a pretty good clip in northern Connecticut, north of Route 84, and in western and central Massachusetts, and in the Hudson Valley, north of 84, and up in the Catskills and in northeast PA. Now, after this time frame, it gets colder. The low intensifies. We're going to come back to this in just a bit. I want to go out to the west because this is a very serious situation, Joe, that's underway in the western part of the United States, given all the snow that they've had,
Right.
in double-digit feet in a lot of places in the mountains. And, of course, they've got this latest surge that's come in that's going to slowly wind down. Although if you look at the Sierra Nevadas, it just continues. It's like this. It doesn't. It did the main push of precip goes east, but the snow in the Sierra Nevadas continues there. And then as we move into later Saturday, you've got some more rain in Northern California, and then comes a really stronger surge when we get into later Monday night, and Tuesday from a wrapped up low that's well east of Los Angeles and moving eastward. So uh, they've got some serious issues here they're going to have to deal with after all that snow, and on top of that, you're going to put what could be a really mega amounts of rain, and that's why we've got flash flood watches up. We have flood advisories up already from what's already fallen. Winter storm warnings in the Sierra Nevadas, extending up into Oregon. Winter storm warnings in in southeastern Idaho, western Wyoming, central Utah, western Colorado, in Montana. It's winter weather advisories that go to winter storm warnings in the northern counties, and we've got blizzard warnings up for much of central and eastern North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota. And winter storm warnings continue from there in the northern part of Minnesota toward Lake Superior to a small quarter into northwest Wisconsin. And I'm going to go to the snow map again. Let's do that. Let's go to the snow map. And we've got two events back to back, so I got to move the clock time here. We'll
Oh,
go.
please. That's all
Well,
we're going to be doing this weekend is
right.
moving clocks.
So this is a snow that's expected between now and 1 p.m. on 2 p.m. on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, by the way. So we'll let the numbers kind of load up here. It's going to take a little while. But you see some 4, 5, 6, 7 inch amounts over Wisconsin, coating to an inch or so in Michigan. Some bigger amounts as you get into North Dakota where they got the blizzard warnings. It looks like it'll probably be an 8 to 12 event there. And then we'll go out to the west and we'll let those load up. And remember, it's been snowing there for a while today, so these numbers that you see will be on top of whatever's already fallen. So they're not nearly as dramatic as what we saw yesterday, where that with that 101-inch print that was posted up in the Sierra Nevadas. I don't think we're going to see that. Now we got a 48 and a 49. The colors still haven't loaded. It's just taking its sweet time doing that. So anyway, but you get the idea, folks. On the satellite tonight, we'll take a look at the loop as it loads. You look at the satellite, you look at the structure of the clouds over the Great Lakes, and you think, oh boy, this looks like it's a pretty loaded system, but it's deceptive. It's not as strong as you think, and plus you can see the enhancement moving off the southeast coast and the thunderstorms from northern Florida that are now offshore. The coastal low is starting to get going. That's where all the energy is, and all of that energy is going out to the east. It's not even lifting up north.
Yeah. No, it's not. What can you say?
It's very sad for snow lovers. Very sad. But
you're talking about it's very sad. But are we going to do it now, or wait until a little later in the show about all of the websites that are promoting a Gigunda storm for early next week?
Yeah. Well, look, you know what? You would think they would learn their lesson. I'm not saying, I'm still not 100% sure how it's all going to turn out. I don't think anybody can be, but to be jumping up and down with a sense of certitude it's just ridiculous at this stage of the game.
We can't say anything with absolute certainty until we get the current atrocity out and see how that finally ends up developing out over the ocean, because that will eventually play or have a say in what will happen early next week. And yet, Joe, I've seen not a few websites and Facebook pages, people publishing and showing snow maps already. And some of these are like broad brushing most of the Northeast. I even heard on one of the local channels, on one of the local national evening news reports, they have employed the Weather Channel. And this particular person on the Weather Channel finished off his report by saying, and we're watching another big storm that could bring finally some big snows to New York and Boston next week. And I just shook my head and said, that's right already. You're already almost committing New York and Boston to a massive snowfall next week. And again, we don't have all the details, but if you want to do that, and if you want to try to bump the ratings up that way, then go right ahead.
All right. Radars. Actually, there's some pretty decent echoes showing up in central and south Jersey, so somebody's probably getting a good soaking of rain from about Route 78 on southward. You see those yellow patches there on the radar that extend down even into Delaware. Then they sort of tail off into southeastern Virginia. You've got probably some snow going on now, or if it's reaching the ground, well up into upstate New York and moving up into New England. Meanwhile, here's the stuff that's going on in the Dakotas, where the radars are actually quite busy with snow over northern South Dakota and into North Dakota and over into northern Montana, playing right into those winter storm and blizzard warnings. Also seeing some hefty echoes across Utah and into western Colorado, down into southern Nevada, so Las Vegas probably got some rain today. And there's quite a bit of rain going on in Southern California, raining in San Diego, which don't happen too often. Back over to well, not quite to Los Angeles. Frisco's on the quiet side for the time being, and we've got a little precip up in the Pacific Northwest. 7-day precip amount. So in the east, it's tonight's system is included. So we're looking at an inch and a half to 2.5 inches of total liquid with this first system with the one for Monday into Tuesday. And of course, definitely the further north you go, the better chance you have of seeing some snow out of that. Also, 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half plus in the lower Ohio Valley, lower and middle Mississippi Valley, down to almost but not quite the immediate Gulf Coast. And in the west, it's an absolute soaker from Southern California, up the coast all the way up into Washington State, where we have several to many inches indicated. And they still have, because now we can subtract out today, Joe, they've got 7 to 10 and some patches of 10 to 15 inches of liquid precip for the Sierra Nevadas. And a good chunk of that may wind up being rain, except at the highest elevations there. There's going to be some serious flooding. And a lot of these poor people, some of them haven't been able to get out of their homes for the better part of 10 or 11 days. And I know that I saw, as I said yesterday, they had snow blowers up on people's roofs to get the snow off before the rains come, because if they didn't, once the rains come, the weight of the snow and the rainwater would probably cause them to lose their roof.
We've experienced that several more than several winters ago here in the east, here in the northeast. I remember a lot of people concerned about the fact that the ice and snow accumulation was just so tremendous. What are you going to do? How are you going to get rid of all of that off of your roofs and everything? And there was talk about some homes, roofs collapsing. It is a very, very dire situation when it happens, and that is what. I mean, how do these people go to bed at night? They probably are tossing and turning, just worrying about hearing a sudden crash in the middle of the night and part of their house coming down because of all of that rain and all of that ice and snow. Crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's gotta be difficult. Ken Musillo hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Ken. Most appreciated. Here's WPC's probability of at least 2. So, as you know, I like the 50% line, and that runs through Central Mass to I-91 west of Hartford, and then goes southwest from there, cuts across, Joe, right over your house, the 40 to 50% line, right, and into northwest New Jersey. The northwest corner of New Jersey is in that 80 to 90%. You see in the darker reds is 95 to 100. That also, by the way, 70 to 80% chance extends down into West Virginia. And then, of course, you've got this big, huge area here in the upper Midwest, extending from the western lakes all the way up into Montana, with a virtual certitude, Joe, of at least 2 words. That's a $6 word.
That's a $6 word, yeah.
And this is the probability for at least 4. And we have a pretty large area of 80 to 100% probability of at least 4 in that zone. And if we go to the probability of at least 8, you will see that, not too shabby. A few areas are in the 80% plus range, a lot of 40, 50, 60, 70% areas being delineated there. Not too much, though, in the west, except for the Sierra Nevadas. The probability of at least 8 is about as low as we've seen for a while. So if we go back to 2, even on the 2, it's not overly extensive. So at least from that standpoint, things seem to be calming down just a little bit. So
Adam Lowe on the chat board, and I saw this for myself when I was roaming around the internet earlier today. Adam Lowe says people trapped in their cars for hours last night on the M62 in England. England now has had 10 times as much snow as New York City. Normally, England only gets an inch of snow for the whole winter.
I don't know. England's is not a small place.
Right.
There's a big
But
difference between the south and the west, as opposed to when you get up further north, where you start to get into some of the mountainous, the mountains up there. So I would debate the 1 inch number.
I was going to say that, yeah, I think England, London, I think gets a little more than an inch. In fact, quite a bit more annually than just an inch of snow. However, Sheffield, which is in the UK, I was seeing pictures, I was seeing video. Joe, it looks like a blizzard up there. I mean, and I'm saying to myself, this is it. This is the last straw for all the snow lovers here in the New York metropolitan or the tri-state area, with begging to get something more than just a little coating or an inch. And these people in a place that normally would not see a lot of snow to begin with are getting pounded at this late season, late in the year. He figured if you're going to get snow in England, they'd get it in January or February. Here it is now coming up in the toward the middle part of March, and they're getting bombed with all this snow. It's crazy.
Now WPC on their long range, so we can start talking about the system that follows. This is for Monday into Tuesday morning. So if you notice where the 10 to 30% line is, it ain't that far south. It's northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley from north, northwest Connecticut, and then you have to go in the Catskills, western Mass, southern Vermont, and up in the Adirondacks, where you start to get into the 50 to 70 and 70 to 90% chance for at least a few inches. And when we look at Tuesday into Wednesday, again, 10 to 30 only extends down to southern Connecticut, northern New Jersey. You've got all the 30 to 50s, the 50s to 70s, and the small areas of 70 to 90, well up to the north. And this is as of 1622. So this was put out before noon today. So they didn't get to see the GFS when this went out. They didn't get to see the dayside model cycle, including the European. So why don't we get to that? And I want to start with the upper air. So let's do that. And Joe, what I did today was when I was looking at all of this, I said, let's instead of looking at the surface and where the lows are going to be, let's look at what the upper air is doing, because that really is ultimately going to dictate what goes on at ground level. And you see that cutoff low. I'm rolling back to midnight Saturday night, wrapped up in North Dakota, and then it moves east and southeast into the lower lakes, and then pivots around, and then there's a closed height line there in southwestern Pennsylvania. Now this takes us to 1 a.m. on Tuesday. Now I'm going to bring up a map that I drew, that I wrote for my subscribers today. So I'm going to bring up this is the European at Wednesday morning. At that which point, the upper low is sitting southeast of Cape Cod. But what I did was I looked back at the sequence on the European to show the track of the upper low and show what the model did. And as everybody who saw it today, the model had a fair amount of accumulating snow all the way down to south central New Jersey, even though it was only a few inches. So the upper low track, usually in cases like this, you want to look at where the upper low tracks, and you want to go about 40 to as much as 120 miles north of that track of the upper low. That's where your heaviest snow would set up. So using the European's track of the upper low, which was basically right along the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, across southern New Jersey, coming out along the New Jersey coast and then going to northeast, that yellow box there indicates who would get 6 inches or more based on what this is based on what the European did. So the European takes this upper low fairly far to the south compared to the other models. And that really is ultimately where the game lies here with this system. Because if we look at the GFS has the upper low near Buffalo, running southeast and going across Long Island. Now, if that's the track then your heaviest snows are going to be in the Catskills, in the Adirondacks, in northwest Connecticut, into western Massachusetts, pushing up into Vermont and New Hampshire. They're not going to be much further south than that. So if the GFS is right, which has this upper low basically going southeast from Michigan to just southeast of Cape Cod, whereas the European digs it, Joe, digs it a little more southeast earlier. If we look at the Europeans' track of this, it goes southeast much further west, and then comes out. As I said, this is now the old, well, the 18Z run. So let me go to the 12Z. So there it is. So here's on the 12Z. You can see the upper low dives down a little bit more, a little west of where the GFS does, and then takes it out right over southern New Jersey and then out to Cape Cod. So if you're a snow lover, you're going to be rooting for this model to be correct. But it's disturbing to me from the standpoint of snow that you've got the GFS doing this, where it just kind of slides it southeastward and takes it almost right over the center right over New York City. You've got the Canadian model, by the way, that does something relatively similar to the GFS. It sort of splits the difference between the two models, but it's closer to the GFS than it is the European. At least right now, I mean, I'm not saying that the European is wrong, but you're gonna want the European to be right, and you're gonna want the European to be maybe a little bit further to the south than it already is, in order to pull off a sizable snowfall for the coast. And I wonder whether that's a tall order at this point.
My thoughts looking at next week was that the darn thing is just intensifying and moving initially so rapidly. It's very funny. It's going to be somewhere off of the Hatteras coastline, presumably Monday evening, and then by Tuesday morning, it's already up near eastern Long Island. That's a very rapid pace that's moving, and also, being a bit of a coast hugger. Then the thing, when it gets to eastern Long Island, it looks like it's going to sit there, Joe, from Tuesday morning until through much of Tuesday and into Tuesday night, kind of doing that little curlicue, if you will,
right,
because the surface system gets trapped underneath the upper system. It's becoming vertical, so to speak. And I'm thinking that once that happens, and again, because it's so close to the coast, I think the coast, if you're looking for sizable snows along the coast, I don't know, this is a personal opinion here, and it's still quite a few days away. But personally, I said to myself, the coast is toast. If you want, to me, today, I said to myself, if I really wanted heavy snow, let's say 6 inches or more or less as a certainty or a surety, aside from the fact that, a place up in the Catskills that's maybe like 2,500 or 3,000 feet above sea level, you have to go way up to get into the colder air. But I mean, aside from that, the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, the White Mountains of New Hampshire, the Green Mountains of Vermont, and through a good part of Maine. In fact, I'm thinking that with the storm centered, let's say near Cape Cod, later Tuesday or Tuesday night, that's a perfect position, I think, if you're up in Maine, even with some marginally cold air, to get a significant snowfall. There could be some places that get like 10, 12 inches. But I think for the coast,
the low's got to go north or northeast from there. It may go more east and southeast after it gets to Cape Cod, which means that Maine may get shut off after a certain point. By the way, I put the snow. This is the 24-hour snow. The European goes out now to Tuesday morning. I think Tuesday morning is the last frame here. 12Z. I'm sorry, Wednesday morning. 12Z Wednesday morning this was the day run. This was the 12Z run. So I used the 24-hour snowfall so we could subtract whatever it does tonight into tomorrow morning. I mean, it gave 4 inches for New York City, 4 inches for Islip, 2 inches down in Toms River in New Jersey, and then northwest Jersey. Just north of you is where the 1 foot line, northern Fairfield County near Danbury, from there north and through Litchfield County, and you can see the big 20, the 2 foot is that orange area there. These are
Right.
all 26, 27 inches up in the Catskills there. But by Wednesday morning, southwestern Maine 6, 7, 8 inches, but not much more than that. Now I want to look at the new run of the European. So let's go to the 18Z, which we should have the 24-hour snowfall here, but this is only going to take us to, I believe, Tuesday morning. Let's see what it does. All right, why is it not giving me the 18Z? Come on.
It doesn't like you, Joe.
Now keep clicking on it. There you go, finally.
Huh.
All right, so here's the 18Z. By the way, this is what the European, by tomorrow morning, by tomorrow afternoon, it gives 1.7 to Islip. It gives 0.8 to Central Park, to New York City, which would put it over the top. So it won't be the least snowiest if it verifies. But it barely gives you an inch. I mean, you got some bigger amounts in Northwest Jersey and in the Catskills. That's it. Steve LaPointe hitting super chat, 321 watching, 118 likes. Okay, let's see if we can push that 118 closer to the 200. Thank you for the 100 likes, by the way, and thank you for the super chat hit, Steve. All right, so let's roll this out. Let's get to the nitty gritty here. All right, so this is 24 hours. Oh, it actually does go. It did it again, Joe. I'm trying to get the 18Z, and it's not giving it to me. This is so weird.
Technology, Joe.
No, it will not let me go to the 18Z. Isn't that funny? Oh, you know why?
Why?
Now I know why. Because I did that stupid update, that stupid Microsoft update that knocked out all my passwords. I have to re-log in. Now I'll get it. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. We're doing a Friday night show here. I'm a little off. All right, let's get the European up. 18Z. Thank you so much. I'll leave the surface here so we can at least look at that. And let's go to the forecast loop. All right, so.
See, the one thing that next week's system has that this system that we're looking at tonight and tomorrow does not have is, if you look at the FGen maps at 700, there's some good FGen that's going to be moving through during Tuesday, especially during Tuesday. And so, quite frankly, the atmosphere is not going to be, in terms of the column, in terms of cold, in terms of temperature, it really is not going to be all that much different from what we're looking at now for tonight and into part of tomorrow. But in order for you to get that snow, you're going to need some good vertical motion. You're going to need some good energy, and that is what this system on Tuesday can promise you. That possibly could create enough cold air or produce enough cold air to bring that heavier snow down, all the way down perhaps to the coast. That's your one hope. That's the only thing you can hang your hat on. Other than that,
you got to get you have to get under the comma head. At the end of the day, you have to get under the comma head.
Precisely, Robin.
Precisely, Robin. Exactly. So the only thing I can say is that it looks like, at least, I'm doing this eyeballing here, that the low is actually about maybe a degree further south on this run by Tuesday morning, as opposed to the old 12Z run. So yeah, you're going to need that. You're going to need this to be about 20 or 30 miles further south, so you can pull that comma head back westward, which is what the European implied happened as this thing, reaches peak intensity just near somewhere between Montauk and Nantucket. So you're going to have to get that. And by the way, as far as the snow map is concerned, I can finally do that. Let's get the winter weather. Let's go to the snow. I'm sorry, I got to go to doing it again. I apologize, folks. Give me a moment here. I want to go to the 24-hour snowfall. And let's go to 90 hours. Let's get really close up and personal. So this is it's a Tuesday morning. I'm going to go local. So we'll go on the local map here to Tuesday morning. Let's give it a moment here to load up. So by Tuesday morning, I mean it's just starting with regards to snow. So any precip that falls from Monday, before that is mostly rain right along the immediate coast. You start to pick up some big numbers. It's got 8 inches at Poughkeepsie, 9 at Middletown, barely an inch at Islip, a tenth of an inch at Providence, and half an inch at Boston, 1.7 at Hartford, 5.7 at Waterbury. Again, this is as far out as it goes on this European run. You're going to have to get that upper low to be a little bit further to the south and maybe capture that surface low a little bit sooner, and then you might have something to talk about here. But right now, we're sort of in no man's land in terms of trying to figure out where this is all going to go. Richard Melikar hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Richard. Nice to see you on board tonight. And Brett R also hitting super chat. Thank you, Brett. Also, most appreciated.
And I should also point out, Joe, that the reflection, the upper system that is going to set the stage for what will be happening here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. The upper system, when they were sending the balloons, when they were launching the balloons with the radiosonde this morning, was just entering the coast of Oregon. They were just coming onshore to the Oregon coast. Now, all things assuming that and they sent those balloons up about an hour and a half ago across the states. By then, that same system had progressed into northern Idaho and into northwestern Montana, and also so it's well inland now, and is probably getting a lot more data sets to work with as opposed to just 12 hours ago. And so I'm predicting that what we see then out to early next week, maybe in some cases not necessarily radically different than what we're getting from what we got from the 12Z run, but maybe noticeably different than what we saw because of the fact that we're getting more data sets inputted now into the supercomputers and more stuff to work with. And so they can model everything a little bit better. And so from tonight on, now finally we're going to be able to get a better handle as to what's going to be happening for early next week, as opposed to up until earlier today, where again we had fewer data sets because the upper system was out over the ocean, and now things are going to, I think, come more into focus, and we'll have a much better idea as to what may happen for early next week for all of you snow lovers and for all of you who maybe not snow lovers.
By the way, this is the European 2-meter temperatures for Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. New York City 35, Yonkers 35, Middletown 33, Poughkeepsie 33, Albany 33, Oneonta 31, Scranton 31, Hartford 35, Worcester 34, 40 in Boston. You're going to have to, Philadelphia's 34, Wilmington's 34. So in order to bring those temperatures down to the 32 degree mark, you're going to need to get under that comma head and get into some heavy snow. Otherwise, It ain't going to happen.
Right. So, exactly. That's why it's not happening tonight. All of the energy, we pointed this out yesterday, all of the good F-gen, and actually the secondary, which is developing now, really won't get rolling until after midnight and early tomorrow. And by that time, where's all the good F-gen, all the energy? It's way out east. The flounders and striped bass are going to be getting it, not us. So we forget about that. But that's what we have to hang our hat on for next week. We have to get underneath the comma head. We have to get a lot of good F-gen, a lot of good lifting, a lot of forcing, if you will, forcing that atmosphere to cool down and cool down enough to allow for some heavy snow and some accumulation.
Do you have the drought map up?
Yes, I wanted to, it's a funny thing. Yesterday, I said in California, I said, I was out not in California but in Arizona last spring, and back then, I mean, I said it was California, Arizona, one big blotch of orange and red, indicating extreme drought, severe drought, exceptional drought. And really, I didn't even realize, Joe, but I mean, California, take a look. October, that wasn't too long ago. October on the right hand side, all of this red and deep shades of red, that's extreme drought, exceptional drought. And now this isn't the latest drought map. This is this was posted as of March the 2nd on the left. And take a look. All the red is gone. There's even some areas of white now that is indicating no drought. And last night I showed you the very latest drought map. And I would have to say like 50 to 60% of California now is no longer in drought. It's amazing how in just a few months, from October to February, in just a few months, we've gone from dire drought situation to rapid improvement, all because of all of the, and it's still not ending. Again, as I speak to you tonight, as Joe and I are on the air with you, I mean, they're battening down for like 8 inches of rain, and in some parts of the Sierra Nevadas, another 8 feet of snow. It's just not ending. Joe, before this winter is officially over, the astronomical winter is over, I'm predicting that all of California is going to be in the white, so to speak, based upon what's been happening. Unbelievable.
Yep. Leon Probitsky hitting super chat. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated. Very generous of you. And I know you called me today. I wasn't able to get to your call, so we'll chat another time. I'll try and call you back. I'll try and call you back over the weekend.
Leon never calls me. Of course, Leon doesn't have my number.
Right. All right. It's a Friday night, and I don't have to tell you I'm exhausted because I'm exhausted. So
right.
We'll see everybody on Sunday. And you know what? By Sunday, we should be able to, kind of have everything worked out, I think, with regards to what's going to happen Monday night and Tuesday. Tuesday. We still got a bunch of, the next round of models runs between now and then. I'm not expecting the upper features to be further south. And if they are, it'll be a nice surprise. But I'm not betting on it. So let's put it like that. And somebody was asking, who was it? Where was he? Where'd he go? Hold on a second. Brian Carter says no comma head. I'm not sure why he says that. But who said? Where is it? Oh, someone put something up asking when are we going to put state that the official end of winter. We are just my response to that is we do weather here. I mean, we do whatever's in front of us. We do whatever the atmosphere presents us. We're not cheerleaders for any particular season one way or the other. Yes, granted, I am a snow lover and I love when it snows, but that doesn't get in the way of me calling the weather as it is. So, I'm not ringing bells. If you're expecting me to ring a bell saying winter is over, then we probably should have rang that bell back weeks ago.
I'm ringing a bell. Or
maybe we should have rang the bell right after Christmas, after that first Arctic blast pulled out. I don't know. I just.
All right.
When I get tired, I get cranky. When I get cranky, I start reacting over the top with comments. So it's probably good that we stop the show here, and we'll see everybody on Sunday.
People are asking about Jeopardy. Look, we use Briller Jeopardy, and we enjoy doing Briller Jeopardy, and especially so when we had nothing to talk about. Then it was great. But now suddenly we have a lot to talk about. We may not even do Jeopardy on Sunday because on Sunday probably we're going to have the postmortem as to what ultimately has happened for tonight and tomorrow morning. And of course, we'll be talking about what's happening on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So it's not permanently shelved, but maybe sometime mid or late week of next week we'll be able to do some Briller Jeopardy, because we have a couple of them in the vault right now, and we'll get back to it, I assure you.
And by the way, all the
once we
best
get
to
older.
Scott, who sends it on a regular basis. He puts a lot of work into it, and we
Absolutely.
appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
big hello to Mother Briller. Hope she's doing well.
Right.
Scott's been he's been taking care of his mom, and
Between
we
taking
wish
care
them
of the
both
mom,
well.
between taking care of his mom, and of course all the COVID runs that he's done over the weeks and months past, he's a very busy guy. We're so happy to have him on our team. Thank you so much, Scott, for providing us with a little entertainment, a little bit of the lighter side of things with those Briller Jeopardy questions. And again, I want to thank, and already Joe's done so, but I'll do it again, Leon Probitsky, Brett R., Richard Melchior?
Melikar, I think.
Melikar. All right. Well, whatever. We thank you, Richard. Steve Lapointe, Ken Musillo, Matt Schelling, Anthony Sparacchio, Trish Sparacchio, and tonight it was all kicked off by David Fuller. Thank you so much. And we got 152 likes as well.
Nice.
So we're doing it great tonight.
And don't forget Jane King, Sheila McRae, Art Carney.
Actually, it was Jane
King.
No,
I'm sorry.
Yes, no, Keen, not
Jane
Keen.
King. What did I say? Jane King?
Jane King.
No, Gene. I'm sorry, Gene Keane.
Jane
Keane.
Right.
Jane Keane.
Right.
You're right. Okay.
They're all, and by the way, they're all dead except for one. Joyce Randolph. The original Trixie. She is still around and alive and kicking. 97 years old. God love her.
Yes, and so is Eva Marie Saint, and I bring her up because last night North by Northwest was on, and it was wrapping up just as we started our show, so I couldn't see the whole
perfect timing.
Climactic scene.
Timing.
She's the oldest. Yeah. She's the oldest surviving Oscar winner right now.
Right.
So, anyhow, all the best to Eva Marie Saint, who watches this show just almost continuously. And we'll see everybody on Sunday. Oh, Sammy Presley, late super chat hit. Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you, Sammy.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.